Now, President Donald Trump's latest travel ban affects 43 countries globally, and of those 43 countries, 22 of them are African states. I know a lot of people are saying this is a race issue, but today I want us to be able to reflect rather than react so that we can be able to pick a couple of lessons Africa as a continent can be able to learn through this move. But before that, let's listen in to what he had to say as he went through this ban.
The recent terror attack in Boulder, Colorado, has underscored the extreme dangers posed to our country by the entry of foreign nationals who are not properly vetted, as well as those who come here as temporary visitors and overstay their visas. We don't want them. In the 21st century, we've seen one terror attack after another carried out by foreign visa overstayers from dangerous places all over the world. And thanks to Biden's open door policies, today there are millions and millions of these illegals who should not be in our country. In my first term, my powerful travel restrictions were one of our most successful policies, and they were a key part of preventing major foreign terror attacks on American soil. We will not let what happened in Europe happen to America. That's why on my first day back in office, I directed the Secretary of State to perform a security review of high-risk regions and make recommendations for where restrictions should be imposed. Among the national security threats their analysis considered are the large-scale presence of terrorists, failure to cooperate on visa security, inability to verify travelers' identities, inadequate record-keeping of criminal histories, and persistently high rates of illegal visa overstays, and other things. Very simply, we cannot have open migration from any country where we cannot safely and reliably vet and screen those who seek to enter the United States. That is why today I am signing a new executive order placing travel restrictions on countries including Yemen, Somalia, Haiti, Libya, and numerous others. The strength of the restrictions we're applying depends on the severity of the threat posed. The list is subject to revision based on whether material improvements are made, and likewise, new countries can be added as threats emerge around the world. But we will not allow people to enter our country who wish to do us harm, and nothing will stop us from keeping America safe. Thank you very much.
All right, so I'm pretty sure if you are watching this in America, you must be excited because what you're looking at is a president who is putting his people's interest first, right? But if you are watching this outside America, you are like, okay, what is happening? What did Togo do? What did Chad do, right? But we are going to get into that. But before that, allow me to break the list down for you. We said this is going to affect 43 countries and 22 of those are African nations. So I'm going to actually concentrate on the African parts, just read you the list on the full entry ban. So on the red list, you have Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. So citizens from these countries are completely barred from entering the US under any visa category. So if you're in Libya, Somalia, and Sudan, and you are looking forward into going to the US, kaput, no entry for any visa category at all. And then you have the orange list. This one has 3 African nations, and this is also on the severe visa restrictions. So these countries obviously will face sharp visa restrictions, including bans on tourist and immigrant visas, and they also will face enhanced security screenings and also stricter documentation requirements. These countries are Eritrea, Sierra Leone, and South Sudan. So again, if you belong to these 3 countries and you are looking forward into traveling to America, then you might want to be okay with facing strict security screenings and documentations, right? But we have a lot of these African countries on the yellow list. This is a bit flexible. It's a 60-day warning period. And if you're in this category, or if your country is in this category, you have 60 days. Your government or the citizens of these countries, you have 60 days to address alleged deficiencies in the security practices or risk being moved to either red and the orange list category. And no one wants to be on the red category and even on the orange category. But what African countries are here? Let's take a look at which countries are in this yellow list. Of course, Burkina Faso. I know a lot of you guys have more love for Burkina Faso. You are showing Burkina Faso and its leader Ibrahim Traore a lot of love, but also Burkina Faso was not spared. You have Angola, you have Benin, you have Cameroon, you have Chad, you have Republic of the Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, you have Equatorial Guinea, you have Gambia, you have Liberia, you have Malawi, you have Mali, you have Mauritania, you have Zimbabwe. Man, this is just actually in a continent with 54 countries. You have 22 of them being on the spotlight, right? And their citizens risk entering US anytime soon. So of course you can see Donald Trump's reasons are pretty much genuine. He's addressing a couple of things that I don't think any country would be okay with. He's talking about lack of vetting systems, failure to share intel, and also terrorism concerns. And he has made an example of what happened to America just the other day. And he's saying, you know what, guys, we have to put our country first. And this is not the first time that he's doing that. You remember in his earlier term, you remember also what happened to countries like Nigeria, etc., etc. And also he came in with what many people termed as the Muslim ban. What you will also get to see in the rest of the 43 countries is that you have a lot of Muslim countries there. And I do understand when people say this is a race and religion issue. I do understand where they are coming from, but also there are people in the US that are like, no, this has nothing to do with race or religion. This has to do with putting America first. And this is what people are saying ever since Trump came to power. Many people might not support some of his moves, but other people are saying one of the things that he has done and one of the promises that he has kept is putting America first. But I'm gonna go into our basis of today's conversation because this is a wake-up call to Africa as a continent, and maybe we can be able to look at 5 things that we can take home from this whole scenario. It's embarrassing, of course, I know that. It speaks highly of your passport power. We will be addressing that, but allow me to go through some of the reactions from people across the internet, and then we will take a look at what powerful lessons can Africa get to learn through this. I'm gonna start with this comment from this gentleman, Evaristas Ondinikaisi, and he says, are we seriously back here again? Another blanket travel ban targeting mostly black, brown, and Muslim majority countries under the tired excuse of security, quote unquote. It's not policy, it's prejudice dressed in executive power. We've seen this movie before. It was discriminatory then and still is now. Of course, he doesn't agree that this is about security. To him, this is a target on the black race, brown people, and also the religion, the Muslim. He says he doesn't see where security comes in, right? And Mindy here says, I read an article in Minnesota. Political refugees, quote unquote, they are leaving Minnesota and traveling back to Somalia 6 months of the year. They continue to receive their taxpayer-funded health care, food stamps, and rent paid during their vacation home, the place they claim they escaped. Of course, if you're having a lot of Africans traveling from Somalia, some of them might state that you know, Somalia is not a safe place for them, and of course they are looking for a more safe and secure place, and this to them would be the United States. But now there are allegations that majority of them will leave and just come to their country, the one that they claim is unsafe, and then they go back, but they're enjoying the taxpayers' money. So obviously Mindy is a bit glad that this is happening. But Dwayne here says, anyone else go straight to Google to look up Eritrea and Equatorial Guinea because they never heard of those two countries? What? My people in Equatorial Guinea and Eritrea, this person never heard of you, but it seems that your government is convinced traveling to the US. Man, this comment, I don't know. I don't know whether this is sarcasm, but doesn't it remind you of Donald Trump also talking about Lesotho and asking where is that? He'd never heard of that name before. But what this comment, of course, portrays is that you can have the American dream, but the people in America never heard of you. They don't even know your countries exist, and that's just, I don't know, it's a weird way to look at things. But let's look at what Sono said. They said, do not claim that you banned dangerous countries. Instead, admit that you banned poor countries. These nations have done nothing wrong, yet you welcome those who have actually harmed you. This hypocrisy only fuels radicalization. I swear he can't find one of these countries on the map. There you go. Someone is saying, nah, this is not a matter of those countries not being secure. This is you going after poor countries, etc., etc. Would love to know your thoughts on that. Another person said, what is the problem with Haiti or Togo or any of these black countries? These people are very hard workers. You do not see many of them in jails or doing crimes. Okay, I see the color of their skin. I forgot. You see, race is not going anywhere. People are convinced, of course, having such a large number of African countries in this list, this is a matter of race, not a matter of security, not a matter of putting American lives first, etc. Share your thoughts with me. Maybe I read the last one for you. And this is MAGA and World. They say, nice move from President Trump. Many travel YouTubers always help these countries to propagate that they have beautiful views, great hospitality, their people are nice, and everything is great in those countries. They are all failures in propaganda. We have to say no to these terrorism propagandas. Well, he doesn't believe that some of these countries that are on this list are beautiful or they have great views. To them, this is a propaganda. To them, this is these countries selling the narrative of peace and beautiful, but maybe he might want to visit a couple of these countries because they really do have great views and they have incredible people in them. But it amazed me, maybe this on the final comment, there's someone, an immigrant, let me read what they said, and they are supporting this move. And I think the irony here is, how are you supporting something knowing you would have been a subject of such travel bans had you not been in the US right now? But let's take a look at their comment, and you guys can also tell me what you think about this. They said, as an immigrant, I love this. We had to wait patiently and suffer war while my father worked on our papers and we came legally. It's not fair, and there's no excuse for people to come illegally or stay illegally. The H-1B visa program was created to bring rare, useful geniuses and inventors, but we see H-1B visa holders as cashiers, janitors, business owners, tech workers, and so on. That's not what it was intended for. It should not be utilized to replace the American workforce with cheap foreign labor. The H-1B visa program should be abolished, as it's destroying Americans. Ban H-1B visas now, please. So valid reasoning also right there, depending on how you look at it. This person is saying for them, they've had to endure war. They waited patiently as their father processed the papers so they were able to go to the US legally. So I would love to hear your views on those comments. But what are some of the key and powerful lessons Africa can be able to pick from this? Of course, this is not a good image for Africa. It goes back to just so many things are happening. I don't know if Africa, we've lost our strength, our power. I don't know if this has to do with Africa not being desired as much as people thought it would be, but I did draft a couple of lessons that we can be able to learn from this. And one of them is that we have to understand that migration is a development issue, not just a political one. It's a development issue. And when you look at majority of these African countries, Kenya included, you have politicians in this country selling you the American dream or the Gulf dream and encouraging you to go and work in diaspora, etc. But they do not want to face the truth that the reason majority of the people are looking for those opportunities outside, it's because African countries are not taking some of these matters seriously. People will not flee, from a stable, thriving nation. You are fleeing from something that this is not stable, either security wise or even economic wise. So you have to be able to create enough sustainable jobs for our own people, skilled industries. Man, Africa, I think we really need to pull our socks on these ones. We do not have centered developments for our people. Agriculture and value addition. It pains me every day. I have to talk about agriculture and value additions, the opportunities in value addition, the fact that we are still exporting some of our crops and minerals. You have people exporting coffee beans, and then those coffee beans go and they are processed, and then you buy them as coffee. You buy them 5 times the price. I don't know. People are making fun of Burkina Faso having its own value addition industry for their tomato sauce, right? But I think this is something a lot of African countries need to emulate, because not only will it help in some of these foreign direct investment, but you have people actually buying products from you and not you selling yourself cheap and exporting everything from Africa in raw format. Have industries here, tech innovations. I don't know why our governments are not investing in tech. We have a lot of youths. Africa has the majority of young population, but you will still see people talking of old narratives instead of even paying attention to the tech innovation and the tech, the change in tech right now. I think this is something that we really need to look at careful as Africans and hold ourselves accountable. Education reform. Look at the type of education majority of African countries are still using right now. The politicians have refused to ask themselves the most important question: can this serve our children? Can this serve young people even in the coming years? This is a question that majority of these countries, their leaders, their presidents, their members of parliament have refused to address. And also, if you are having 22 of these countries being African nations, what does this say about the passport? Powerful lesson number 2. African passports are, I don't know, they are weak. Let's just admit it, because an African citizen or from different countries, you are subjected to so many things even before you are allowed entry in the US or other countries in the West, right? So this actually speaks highly of our passport. It's weak. I don't know, we have to reflect. It speaks low geopolitical value currently attached to African passports. And this is also maybe the West communicating Africa has nothing to offer us right now. But we know that's a lie. We have so many things that we can be able to offer. But until we get to understand how to maneuver geopolitically, then I don't know, we will keep facing such embarrassments day in, day out. Security. I mean, if I'm Donald Trump and I'm speaking about lack of vetting systems, failure to share intel, terrorism concerns, what does this say about these African countries? Honestly, what does it say? Even right now, we don't have systems that we can be able. Majority of these African countries, they do not have systems that they can be able to point to and say this is a working system. We don't have structures. Majority of these countries are struggling with structures. So when you look back and you realize, I mean, it's so easy to fake documents here. I'm not saying it's not easy to do that in the West, but we do realize it's very easy for us to be able to fake documents here. You have people being issued ID cards left, right, and center. And you are like, okay, how did they get this? If we cannot answer that question from a continent point of view, then we will continue facing these embarrassments left, right, and center. So let us be very, very careful. Let us stop relying on outside factors for our own internal security. Let's not do that. We have what it takes to be able to build structures and systems that work. All right, let's take a look at another one here. We talk about Pan-Africanism, left, right, and center. But if we go back to some of these travel bans, Africa does not react collectively. Like I would imagine right now, if Africa finds itself as this communicates something, as we've said, if it finds itself as the most affected, then you would expect a collective voice, right? You would have people, just maybe asking for clarification into these allegations, right? But from a collective point of view. But African countries just bargain as individuals. If Kenya is bargaining with the US, they want to do it as Kenya alone, as a country. South Africa, if it's bargaining with the US, they want to do it as South Africa. Togo, same. When will we ever embrace that Pan-Africanism, spirit and be able to negotiate things collectively? Might be far-fetched, might not come true maybe even in the next 10 or 20 years, but look at some of the beautiful things that might happen when we come together and just bargain collectively. We honestly need continental solidarity, and that is something that we don't have. Global validation is fragile. Yeah, we are catching feelings right now. Some of these countries are catching feelings. Why are we on that list? What have we done? For how long will we continue seeking validation from the West? Why do you need America to tell you can't go there? Why? Why do you need America to tell you can't go there? Why are you seeking this much validation from an external country? I don't know, Stop looking outside for validation. Create institutions of excellence, guys. Africa needs to wake up. We have to create institutions of excellence that can be admired even from people who are outside Africa. And we can do this, just by elevating African voices globally, highlighting more on what the beautiful and positive things happening in Africa. And I always insist, unless we are okay with our own narrative, unless we are okay with the way people are telling our narrative out there, then let's not complain. Actively participate in telling the true African narrative. Stop letting people tell that narrative for you. Actively participate. Even if you are watching this from diaspora, actively participate in creating a true African narrative, right? We have so many things in Africa that we need to rejoice for. We have the youths, we have resources, we have our culture, but what we don't have as Africans is unity. I'm telling you that for free. That's something that we do not have, right? I mean, if Chad is on the list, and we know for sure Chad is a key US counterterrorism friend, matters, even in the Sahel region. And they've really come through, and Chad is on the list. Who is going to speak for these guys? I don't know, guys. I honestly don't know, but I'm interested once again in your views on this. It goes a long way. For me, what Trump has done should not be just something we react on. We need to reflect on it. We need to be able to hold ourselves accountable. And we need now to come together as Africans, come together as the 54 states and ask ourselves what works for Africa, because what Trump is doing, whether it's challenged constitutionally or not, the legality of things, whether whatever he's doing is wrong or not, what he's doing is in the name of protecting the interest of his people. When will Africa protect the interests of its people? When? If we don't get this wake-up call, then we will continue shouting and saying this is a matter of race. And I'm not invalidating what some of the people here have said matters race, but we cannot keep singing the same tune over and over and over again. Something has to change. Let's build Africa for Africans. You guys, we are being embarrassed left, right, and center. Look at what happened to Ramaphosa the other day. Look at what is happening to Kenya right now. You are facing embarrassments left, right, and center. And the best way to go about this is to reflect. So as we collectively reflect as African people, let me know on the comment section, what is your overall thought in this, right? Is it time for Africa to wake up? Do you think what Trump did or is doing is fair? And what has surprised you about the list, right? So also make sure to take a look at the rest of the 43, the rest of the countries there. We've just addressed the 22 countries of African, the African nations. So make sure to take a look at the rest of the countries and have these conversations as well. Again, I think my take home from today's conversation is outside validation. We really need to stop doing that as Africans. Let's love home. Let's build home. And building Africa means we have to have structures and systems that work for our people, not against our people. We shouldn't be overjoyed when we see thousands of youths, leaving the country or leaving the motherland to be able to seek for better opportunities out there, because we cannot shy away from the brain drain that majority of the African youths are suffering from, even in the West, right? You have yourself there working as a doctor. We are sending actually the best from Africa, and they love taking the best because, again, they are protecting their interests and they need a manpower that is going to work for America as them, right? So we are sending the best, the cream de la cream of African youths. But look at the brain drain. Majority of them, even when they work there, it's very hard for them to bring their families, to America. It's crazy. You don't have your family, but you have to work. What kind of life are we creating for our African youths? As much as we celebrate, yes, the American dream, please, let's start watering our own grass, right? So many things as Africans we need to pay attention to. I mean, look at how even America operates in our airspace, in the African airspace. It's so easy for them, but for Africans, for African nations, even to be able to operate in those airspaces, that speaks highly of how much they do not trust our securities and our systems. So Africa, we really need to do better. We really need to do better. Like, we need to do better for the generations to come and for everyone that loves Africa as a motherland. Start holding your politicians accountable. When you go to vote, make sure you are not voting just for yourself, but even for the generation to come, so that we don't have to raise our children in an environment where we are telling them the American dream is the only dream. Now, we don't have to do that. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what your take home is from today's conversation. I know some people's feelings have been hurt, but as I said, this is a great moment for us not to react, but reflect on what this means for Africa and what good can come from all this, right? So thank you so much for tuning in. A warm welcome to all the new subscribers we have on this platform. I do not take you guys for granted. We are almost at 1.4 million subscribers. I always say the best way to support our platform is through subscribing. And also, if you want to support independent journalism, we have our M-Pesa number on the screen right there. And also, you can join our Patreon club so that we can continue bringing you many of these conversations. My name is Lynn Ngugi. I'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Yeah, take care.